Cory. I thought it would be easier to answer your questions in a video than try to type it out. So you were saying that you're a CPS teacher and viewpoints on education, the state of CPS, and Pedro's leadership and the teacher's contract. So obviously there's a ton in that question. I hope that my website has a lot of information on it. I'm also about to take every questionnaire that I've done, and there's like 3 more that are due today, and just literally post them on my website. So you can see all the FAQs and all the questions and my answers for the last 3 months. That said, I'm going to do a quick hit on your questions. So I am not a CPS teacher. I am an adjunct professor. So I'm an adult educator. And I've been teaching for the last 6 years now, formally in Chicago schools. So I believe in like education and the empathy of teachers, and I can't even imagine, running an elementary school classroom with limited resources. It's an impossible math formula. The state of CPS, I mean, we choose CPS, right? Like my kids go there. And so I can't put down a school district that I functionally love and like send my little kids to. There are incredible bright spots. District-wide, we do have a lot of inequity. And it's a function of the fact that CPS was never made to be equal, right? 100 years ago, the system was not built for everybody. And so we need to fix that. And there are still buildings and systems in Chicago due to, constantly bringing in a first-year teacher who doesn't have enough resources, who leaves. And so you have that first-year teacher churn. And studies have shown that on any job, but especially education and classroom teaching, you need at least 3 years before you can really start seeing success in the classroom that's measurable. You need long tenures of teachers at schools because that concept of looping actually drives success for young people. So I think CPS has amazing bright spots. We all choose it. So obviously there's some wonderful things there, and it's not good enough. And I'm running because I know I have the leadership and experience to make it better. Everyone loves their individual schools. Typically it's the central office that we need to rebuild trust, accountability, fix the culture. And also just, we don't have enough money and resources. But when you yell at the people that you want to get the money from, and when you functionally have not shown strong fiscal stewardship of the money you do have, you are not going to get any more money. So that's been the challenge as I've talked with people at Springfield and from my own career background. We need to show full transparency of how we're using our money and where, to make sure that we can prove to stakeholders and shareholders that we can get additional funds. But that's going to take an independent board, independent thinkers, people that have been outside the system, Chicagoans and CPS parents with experience but not ingrained in CPS, to rebuild that trust infrastructure so we can get additional resources, because we need new revenue and capital. So one is we need to shore up and improve our procurement processes. Illinois has a procurement consortium. CPS is not a part of it. It's crazy. We spend more money than we need to on everything. So that's a basic financial thing to do. It's not going to save a ton of money, but it's going to show outside stakeholders that we know how to do best-in-class financial budgeting and financial management. Pedro Martinez, listen, everything that's happening right now I think is totally inappropriate for multiple reasons. One, it's politicizing our schools. It's toxic. That is not how we should be treating our teams or our employees. So who in the world would want to be an executive at CPS, whether it's Pedro or the next person, if this is what they think is going to happen to them? Pedro has a performance agreement in his contract on performance between him and the board. Those conversations should be between him and the board on his performance. This is also not the time in the middle of a school year to start this shakeup. I am encouraged, having been a chief officer, having hired and led executives, to sit down and have those performance reviews, look at those performance metrics and make sure we're all bought into that. But do I think that we should be dragging our executives through the mud in the news and think that we're going to now have all the best applicants if there is a separation with Pedro? No, that is not what anyone wants to see. Statistically, every survey is people are tired of the politics. People are tired of adults arguing with each other. They're missing the point. And The reality is there are so many other people beyond Pedro that are doing things. Stable leadership does make a difference. We don't have enough money, whether it's him or someone else. And I fundamentally disagree with the mayor's decision to take out a high interest loan to fill a budget gap. That is not a good solution. I would rather inherit anything else other than a toxic predatory loan to fill a short term budget gap. So I am, without having sat with Pedro and like done performance management with him and like all that stuff, I will say that um, this is not how you treat team members. And this is an example of how the internal culture is probably not healthy at CPS headquarters, and how that probably affects the larger management of the system, right? And so the way we treat our leaders is the way we act as leaders, and the way we treat our leaders is actually a reflection of the culture internally, and that needs to change. This isn't probably how you teach your students to act, and so we should expect better from our adults that lead our organizations and our city for that matter. And I do think it should be up to a more independent board to make these decisions. And again, not dragging through the mud with all the ridiculousness of these news coverages. The thoughts on the teacher's contract, there's nothing outlandish in what the CTU has asked for. But it's not going to happen all in 1 year. And functionally, like we need to figure out like long-term resourcing to pay for it all. And the reality is CPS has to be in the black. Like we have to balance our budget. And if we don't, we get taken over by the state of Illinois. So I would love for us all to come together and figure it out. CTU is a major stakeholder and shareholder, but they are not the only one. And I would really love to see people come together and make a long-term plan and strategy that functionally addresses the fact that there's not enough money. And I don't agree with taking out a high interest loan to fill that gap to fulfill this contract. And that's essentially what's happening here is a political chicken or the egg. And the only people that are really losing are you and me and the kids and all the other news cycles that are focused on this instead of the candidates that are potentially going to be on the board in a couple months. But again, contract negotiations and all this stuff, they should be done by like experienced professionals. There should be a long-term financial plan. And we're not growing the trust and accountability of our district to get more money when people across the state are looking at us saying, and now you want more when you can barely handle what you have. So whether people like that or not, like that's actually the reality from a lot of the legislators across Illinois. But there's like lots of incredible things we can do to grow resources. But step one is we have to stop publicly smearing ourselves and the CPS brand and put love and care back into our system, because it is a wonderful school system with huge opportunities for growth. This is just not the way to get there. I do believe in a positive growth mindset as a leader, and statistically from a business perspective, that also works wonders when we have like a positive growth mindset with like plans in place to do that. And respecting kind of the chain of command and authority. So I hope that makes sense. I would love to sit down with you over coffee or a group meeting and talk more about it. But the other thing is like, I don't know all the answers, and leaders should not, a board member should not, right? The idea is that we pull in stakeholder understandings across our district and then come to an agreement that ideally has the student's best interest at heart, and like, how do we get there? So if you disagree with anything I said, I hope we can have a conversation about it, because that's the point, right? Is that we can talk through things. And if I'm missing something, educate me. And we can do it online or we can do it in person, because, you know, I live like right here near Nettlehurst. So hope this helped. Talk to y'all soon.